All right, so how did I make this nightmare fuel? So I did do a couple, just some small changes between the lessons. So I changed because I wanted a delineation between the dots and the skin. So I changed the color to the dots just being green and the skin just being red. So what that allows me to do, I ran that through a median just to get to kind of smooth it out a little bit, and then so I turned it to mono, right? So it's just a black and white image or a black and white value. So from that mono, I can build a ID. So now these are all ID. And really in Houdini, ID is just another name for integer value. So it's giving this guy 1 and this guy 2 and this guy 3 and this guy 4. So basically when you have an ID, you can change that back to a mask. You can say, hey, give me everything that's just, number 1 or everything that's just number 2 or everything that's just number 3 or whatever. So you have this ID to mask, and so that's going to mask out just my spots. So to get that color back, what I did is I did segment by connectivity. So um, in let's see, in Substance Designer, there's this flood fill system, and basically that's what this is. It's basically finding each disconnected piece and giving it its own ID once again. And then I just took that and did ID to RGB, right? So that's building. So now I'm building my color. So now I have this constant here. Okay? I'm feeding in a source, which is this, and I'm using the inverse of that as the mask. So that gives me my base kind of like that pink with like multicolor, right? So that's all coming off of this mono to ID. So now I'm going to follow that up. So I'm going to take my ambient occlusion here, and I'm going to multiply that by my color so I get some darkening in here. So here I'm taking my convexity, this guy here. All right, so this is out of my convexity. I ran convexity and then an equalize and then a remap to kind of boost that up. So I'm taking that and I'm running a lightning operation. So if we go from here to here, and that's on the convex pieces, and then I'm doing something similar with the concave pieces. So this is concavity, running that through a remap, actually 3 remaps or 2 remaps and a blur, just to blur it out a little bit. And then so that's the mask for this HSV. So we go from here to here to here to get the darkening in those dark parts. So the next thing I want to do, I want to add like kind of like blood, like fake subsurface scattering looking stuff, and that's what this purple color is. So I want to mask this purple color into this blend thickness, and for that I am using my thickness. So if I come out of my here, this is my thickness, running a remap here that's not really doing anything, running another remap that's inverting it, and then blurring that out a little bit. So that's my mask for here. So if we go from here to here, so that's giving me thickness. So like the snout should be a little bit redder, the ears should be a little bit redder, and I can control that through here. So I can say, let's take this value and pull that down a little bit more. And we can take our saturation, move that around. You can do whatever you like to that. Let's go a little bit pink. Right. And then the last thing, what did I do here? What is this? Oh, the last thing I did is I use my gradient position, right? So I take my gradient position and I pull this extract. I'm pulling that Y direction out. So at the bottom of this, it's going to be black. And on the top, it's going to be white. I ran an equalize on that just to brighten everything up, and then remap to invert that. And then that's my mask up here for this Y adjust. So here to here. And then that just goes into my color. So that's the color. Now for my roughness, I also base that off of that ID. So I have this ID to mask, and then I'm remapping my ID to mask so that the minimum roughness is about 0.2 and the maximum roughness is, oh no, sorry, minimum roughness is 0.2 and maximum roughness is 0.8. So the little dots are not very rough and the skin is more rough. It's about 0.6. So that is going up into roughness. And then I think the last thing I did is I ran this mask here into my metalness parameter. So I wanted the bumps to be metal and everything else to be not metal. And then you end up with this monstrosity. Haha. But so like this isn't the greatest looking thing in the world, but like once again, like this process is very like this to me is very, very extendable and collapsible and shareable more than more than like layer based stuff. So I'm very, very much a procedural person. Like I love to be able to be like just move some sliders around and things automatically update by design. That really makes my brain happy. And it makes your possibly your pipeline's brain happy because you're doing way more stuff with less overhead. There's also, I haven't really explored it, but there's also a way to like paint attributes or like paint layers directly into layers and then pull those into cops. Maybe I'll get into that later, but for the most part, for this stuff, I wanted to stay completely procedural because I usually do like the hand painting stuff. I usually do that last. So yeah. So this is the last one for like live data transfer is what we've been doing. So just transferring a lot of stuff from our high res over to our low res, and then using that to build a texture. So, I mean, it does have some shortcomings with this. You can see some of these guys are split because I'm willing to bet there's a UV line here, and this part is on one UV, and that part's on the other UV, and then the segmentation sees those as two different things. How could I get around this? I could just make another attribute on my high res that I pull off of my low res. So that might be something to think about for the HDA, like being able to pull in arbitrary attributes from your high res. I think is something important, and would really leverage the effectiveness of this system. But yeah, like the fact that you can do all of this, like mostly from quote unquote scratch within the Copernicus system, really shows off how ridiculously powerful it is. I can't believe it's taken someone this long to come up with this. This is fantastic. And if you can't tell, I'm super excited about it, and I can't wait to see where it goes. Okay, so that's it for this chunk of the dev blog. I think in the next one, I'm going to go over another transfer method, or another transfer, like transferring like texture maps. Like if you have like one object that's texture mapped and you need to take those textures and move them over to the UV space of another object, like how to do that. And I think it's going to be very similar to what's going on in this setup. So yeah, so hope you're enjoying this. Little rambly, but everybody got to start somewhere. So I'll see you in the next one.